have a lot of berries that I've picked at the allotment, so I thought today I'd show you what I'm going to do with them. So I've froze them and now I'm just cooking them up. I'm going to make a jam. Now I've never made jam before, so it's going to be a bit of an experiment. I've just got a really basic jam recipe. So just heating them up here to start off with. And I have got a big jam making bowl that I already had. Okay, so I've not bought it special. I already had it. Bought it from my husband a few years ago, but we haven't really used it, so it's good that I'm finally getting to use it. So here they are, all nicely starting to condense down. So I had to bring them to the boil and then simmer for 10 to 15 minutes, I think it was. So they're all looking nice and juicy now. That's me just continuing to stir them just to make sure that they're not sticking to the bottom. Really good stir. Then the most important bit of jam, or one of the most important bits, is the sugar. So the recipe I was using called for golden caster sugar, which I didn't have, so I used a mix of dark brown and just normal granulated sugar. So it was the same quantity of fruit to sugar. So however many grams of fruit you've got, it's the exact same of sugar. So then I'm just stirring it now to dissolve in the sugar. So that just takes a few minutes. It didn't actually take that long, to be fair. There we go. You can just see the last little bits dissolving in now, and it's looking like really rich and dark, which is great. Then I need to bring it up to a rapid boil, and I've got a temperature gauge here, a thermometer that I used. Again, it came with the kit. Now the instructions said, the recipe said that it had to get to 105 degrees centigrade. So I kept an eye on it. So when it first went in, as you can see, it's only just over 40 at that point. But then it quite quickly ramped up towards 100 degrees. So that's the scale on the inside. The outside's Fahrenheit. The degrees is on the inside of the circle. So here it is at 100 degrees centigrade. And then here it is at 105. Like I say, it didn't actually take that long. So once it was 105, I turned off the heat. I had it on a wok burner. So I turned off the heat and then I left it for 5 minutes to cool. And then this is me just trying to strain some of the scum off the top. There wasn't a huge amount, to be fair. So I'm just removing the thermometer now and then trying to skim off some more. Like I say, there wasn't a huge amount of scum that was left on. And then there's a little trick that the recipe called for, which I'm going to try in a second. And that is just to add some butter. So here it is, all nicely cooled. And then I'm just adding a little knob of butter, or margarine in my case, and then stirring it into the top, because this supposedly also dissolves the scum. So I thought I'd give that a try as well. And it seemed to work. I didn't notice any scum on the top. And then time to jar it. So I'd already sterilised these jars. So I'm filling it up. Now I am going to water bath these. I'm going to can them using the water bath method, which again I've never done before, but I do have a new water bath canner that I'm using. So first of all, I just need to put the jam into the sterilised jars, and I need to leave a 1/4 inch at the top, which is quite important. So leave a 1/4 inch at the top. So I did measure that out. I'm not sure I've got that on film, but I did measure it out. Here, I'm just putting a little bit back just to make sure. There we go. And then really importantly for canning, I am wiping the edge round where the seal is. If there is any food still left there, it can compromise the sealing process and make it not seal properly. So I'm just using paper towel to just wipe around the rim just to make sure there is no jam left, so then it will seal properly. So yeah, just using another one here just to make sure I get it all completely off. And I am using proper preserving jar. So you can see it's got the lid and then the rim on the top. Now with the rim, this is me just filling the third one, when you screw it on, it's finger tight. You don't screw it so it's really tight, it's just finger tight. So I managed to get 3 out of this. I think it was 675 grams of fruit in total. So the fruit I'm using is a mixture of loganberries, blackberries and black currants that I've picked over the last few weeks at the allotment. I'm just cleaning up because again, when you're preserving and canning, it's really good practice just to make sure that everywhere's nice and clean, as it is when you're cooking generally, I guess. And now for the water bath canner. So it was a huge pot and it comes with this little holder here that I'm putting the jars in. What took the longest really was filling it up with water and getting it boiling. So I boiled the kettle up to fill it and it took about 5 kettlefuls, I think it was. And then once I was happy there was enough boiling water in, I just lowered the rack down. I'm going to see in a minute what it looked like in there. So this is me just measuring the depth of water. There needs to be at least 1 inch from the top of the lid to the top of the water effectively. So there needs to be about 1 inch of water on top. And here they are inside. So the water is very, very hot at this point. It has been boiled in the kettle, but it's not a rolling boil. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the lid on, I'm turning the heat up, and I'm letting it get to a rolling boil, and then I'm leaving it for 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, I can then carefully, I need to get a little bit better at this process, because obviously all the metal inside is now very, very hot. I'm going to carefully take the rack out, which I just about managed to do without burning myself. Like so, using a tea towel. And there they are. So again, they're very, very hot. So I'm using the tongs that came with the canner to take them out and put them to one side. Now you need to listen out for the pop at this point, which is actually the seal happening. And I did hear it quite quickly after I took them out. Almost straight away, I heard the pop, which is the seal. And then I've just put them down on a tea towel and they need to be left for 12 to 24 hours. After that point, they can then be stored. So here they are all labelled up and ready to go.